Hello and welcome back to the Brew Bowl. We're here for the round 2 summary, and I will flick over to the leaderboard so we can see where all the various teams are at. So we have a tie for first place this week, with the Lauren Forest Drakes moving up to tie with the Slum City Blight. They're both on 2 wins, no losses, and a +4 differential. So that puts them both equal first place. The Scrabble Butchers have also jumped up into third place. They're the only other team with 2 wins, although a lower overall points difference. Then the Iceborne Peak Jarls and the Warpstone Enslavers both jumped 3 spots into equal fourth. 1 win, 1 draw, 4 points each, equal on 1 point differential. The Axolotl Coatls had a drop, having lost their match against the Blight, bringing them down to 6th place, originally from 2nd, with 3 competition points. They're tied as well with the Gladiators, who had the biggest overall increase, up 8 points, or up 8 slots from last week, with their win over the Marauders. The Knights also jumped up to 8 spot, equal 8 spot, along with the Fanatics, who dropped down 4 spots. Still on 3 points as well, with a +0 difference. Then we have the Hammerers, who had our biggest fall overall, falling down 6 spots after their 2-0 loss against the Drakes. And that then puts them on 3 points with a -1 differential. The Guardians jumped up 5, the Old Bottle Alliance team from the bottom of the field to the number 11, with their win. And then we had falls for the Griffins, the Outcasts, Pantry Raiders, Executioners, and Marauders, all going down this round, and therefore dropping down the table. Let's look how the teams themselves are looking. So the Ascalon Gladiators, which is Fohammer's team, they had enough money to buy back their Blitzer that died in round 1. So that gives him back once again a bench with 1 player. He's bottomed out his treasury though, but did get the win, so dedicated fans went up, and he also managed to get Pro onto one of his blockers. Moving on to the Coatls, with their game, they were finally able to afford to buy, well, they were actually able to afford to buy previously a replacement or an extra lineman, but they did it this time. Also managed to get Sure Hands onto their other block. I don't know why Fend still bolted that. Was from last game. But once again, no injuries going into the next match, so they'll have their full 8 players going forward. The Fungus Bay Fanatics, the Goblin team, did a random secondary skill and happened to get the same player, Trark. So that player is now at a 1 in 3 chance of being drafted each game. So we'll see how long he sticks around for. Defensive and wrestle, though, not really great skills for a Goblin lineman, so not too bothered there. Use some extra cash to buy the assistant coach as well, just to make sure we didn't get too close to expensive mistakes, but they'll have the full team for the next match. The Commonwealth Guardians finally got a win, got the dedicated fans up. Also managed to get tackle on one of the linemen, so they are pretty well set up for the next match. The Executioners, second loss, this time, though, doing nowhere near as well as the Lauren Forest Drakes, their cousins are. We've got Hail Mary Pass on the runner. He's a bit of a passing skilled person, so I guess that could be useful. But also had enough money there to buy a second or an extra lineman to give them some resilience. I actually think that brings them back to 7 players now, yeah, so that was replacing the dead lineman from a previous game. Iceborne Peak Jarls had a good game as well, although they did have one of their players go out and miss next game. Picked up Pro on Ronnie Meldenson, and also had enough money left over to buy an extra lineman with still 85k left. So they're doing quite well in terms of building their team up again. Although they won't have a bench for the next game, despite the fact that they have an extra player, but they will, I suppose, have the star player in round 3. The Arnold Hammerers went for a skill with Russ Grimson and got Wrestle. Huge amount of money, 185k, mainly because the player here, Big Spoon, has the too big to fail trait on his playbook, so he doesn't have to roll for expensive mistakes. So if you save him something, I'm not sure, although he could replace pretty much any player, including if his Troll Slayer suddenly died, easy to replace there as well. So he's got options. Maybe he'd bring a Death Roll later on as well. Lawson's team, the Kids That Outcasts, picked up Leader on their thrower, and also decided to replace his dead Skaven with a Dark Elf instead. So we'll see how that new lineup goes for him when he faces his opponent the next week. Blackberg Knights, our vampire team, got block on a thrall. That's probably quite a good skill to have, though, although one of the other thralls is a miss next game. So they will need a lineman or journeyman as well as a star player going into round 3, but did finally get a win as well. Lauren Forest Drakes just cannot seem to keep 2 war dances in the game. After one died in round 1, one got seriously hurt in round 2, and won't be back until round 4. So they could afford to buy a replacement war dancer, but it will still only be 1 war dancer for their upcoming match in round 3. The Marauders got another mutation on one of their linemen, in this case, Monstrous Mouth. So good for being a ball carrier. Overall, just really looking for a win here for Omar's team. And I think they'll be playing another low-ranked team in the next round, so it should give them a chance to get a win in. The Scrayville Butchers, our corn team, doing surprisingly well. Picked up claws on their corn gore, and also had enough money left over to buy an extra marauder. So they're already starting to grow there in terms of their overall team rating, and they're also near the top of the chart as well. The Slow Thicket Panther Raiders, our halfling team, still without a win. Still down 1 treeman, although did buy an extra lineman just to give themselves some bench space there. And the existing treeman rolled a random skill and got dirty player. Not great, because it means he's more likely to get hired away, and not a really great skill, but we'll see how we go. On to the Slum City Blight. Got a win here, 2nd win in a row, although it was a tough game against the Axolotl Coatls. Picked up 2 heads on Moss Burner, making that an even better gun runner in terms of the dodge skill, and also had money left over to buy an Apothecary. So with some resilience there for the team finally. The Taylor Beckman Griffins managed to get their good blitzer drafted away, although they did have enough cash left over to buy a replacement blitzer. And also picked up pro on one of their linemen, so they're doing still okay despite losing one of their key players. The Warpstone Enslavers, Andrew the Large, picked up Fend, one of the linemen, and also AP had enough money left over to buy an extra lineman, which, because of an excellent management role, has picked up pro for 1 game as well, although his cash is completely cleared out. All right, let's look at the leaderboards for players. Once again, this is not just this round, this is both, not just this season, this is seasons 1 and 2 of the Brew Bowl combined. If you want to see just the results for season 2, go and look at the honours section on the Tour Play website as well. So no real changes here in the passing stats. I think that both Oswald Clipel and Dade picked up an extra pass. Midi picked up 2 touchdowns, putting her still strongly in first place for the overall scores, although Moss Burner has now moved on to the bottom of the table, and overall for season 2, he is still 1 touchdown ahead of Midi for this season. For the deadly players, no real changes here. I think the Gravemaker jumped up onto the table, pushing one of the other Hammerers players down. And then the most valuable, most expensive, just based upon skill allotments and where people have given those new skills to. All right, let's look at what round 3 is going to look like, and I'll talk a bit more here as well about the stats that we looked at last time that Tour Play generates. So first off, we've got one of our number 1 teams versus number 2, or number 3, I think, in this case, because it's the 2 equal ones. So the Drakes taking on the Butchers, both undefeated, both on 750 current TVL, both will get a star player. The Drakes dropped down from an overall rating of 11 down to 9.5 using the Tour Play stats. So they lost a bit of brutality, lost a lot of resistance, or they picked up a bit of dirty play, because they did do a dirty play last game, whereas the Butchers have gone from 14 down to 12. So I still think that, that the Butchers, I think, can do a lot of damage to the Drakes. Whether or not they can still score as well, I'm not sure, but I think that it could be a tough game for the Drakes, whatever happens. Win or lose, they're going to come out of it misshapen, I think. Then we've got the Battle of the Rats, the Subsidy Blight versus the Warpstone Enslavers. So the Blight's game rating on tour players dropped from 14 down to 11.5. So they're coming in at 2.5 offense, 3.5 defense, 1 brutality, 4 resistance, and 0.5 dirty play. The Enslavers, on the other hand, have stayed equal at 10. They had a couple ups and downs. Their defense went up, their resistance went down, but overall they've stayed at 10. So 11.5 on the blight, 10 for the enslavers. It's hard to say how that'll go. I think the star players will probably make a pretty big influence on that game as well. Next up, we've got the Jarls versus the Hammerers. The Jarls went up from 9 to 9.5, mainly from a growth in their offense. The Hammerers dropped from 14 down to 12.5, but still with the overall ratings edge in tour play. Looking at the Gladiators versus the Fanatics. So the Gladiators had a big jump here from rating 5 to rating 8.5, whereas the Fanatics dropped from 10 to 9.5. So big increase for the Gladiators. The Fanatics are still ahead overall, but that's probably driven by their relatively high dirty play rating as well. So we'll see how that actually translates into the game as well. Then we've got the Guardians versus the Coatls. So the Guardians went from 3 to 7. So another big increase. The Coatls dropped from 11 down to 9, but still seem to have the edge there. The Outcasts versus the Knights. This will be another player versus player match with Lawson against Mike. So the Outcasts went from 9 down to 7.5. The Knights went from 9 down to 8.5. So very, very close there. It can really go either way. Once again, I think it will depend upon the star players and the quality of dice rolls on the day itself. Then we've got the Talabaks and Griffins versus the Executioners. Griffins went up from 7 to 7.5. Executioners went up from 5 to 7. Once again, very close game. Could go either way. The Griffins had the benefit of the big guy, but I don't think we've really seen what the Executioners can do just yet. I think they would have some more tricks up their sleeve. And then finally, the Marauders versus the Raiders. So the Marauders going from 6 down to 5.5. The Raiders going from 5 up to 5.5. Hard match to call. Once again, star players can make a huge difference, but I really think that Omar's due a win. He's due some good luck, to be honest, which I hope he gets in this next game against the Raiders. So that's it. That is the roundup for round 2. Round 3 will probably take place over probably a 3-week period because I have a bit of work travel coming up, so I can't do games as regularly as normal. But watch this space, watch the YouTube channel, and you'll see some more games coming up soon. Thanks for watching the show, and I hope you enjoy what's still to come.